Good evening, everybody. The President and First Lady tonight arriving at Mar-a-Lago, where they will spend the weekend. The First Lady also accompanying the President to Walter Reed Hospital, where Mr. Trump had his first physical as President. And President Trump likely looking forward to this weekend with more than usual relish, because he's had to put up with more than usual anger and hatred from the Dems and the national left-wing media. They've been in full attack mode since the Washington Post yesterday published a claim the president had used, are you ready, colorful language in the White House as he referred to Haiti and many African nations having a priority on U.S. visas. The president's remarks came during a private Oval Office meeting. The left-wing national media and Dems have worked nonstop since then, trying to spin the story into a controversy of presumably epic proportions. The Dems, at least some of them, in the DACA meeting with the president yesterday. Take a listen now, if you will, to one of those sanctimonious, duplicitous Dems claiming offense at the president.
He used those words. It is not true. He said these hate-filled things, and he said them repeatedly.
Hard to figure, aren't they? The Dems, they're grandstanding, doing their apparent best to ignore the president's fundamental point. What has happened to all of the aid that the U.S. government has sent to Haiti over the past quarter century? How was that money spent? Whose pocket did it line? What happened to all the United Nations aid, all the aid and money that American churches and charities have donated to Haitians in that time? And why should any president, but particularly this one, have to put up with the self-serving ignorance of the Dems and the left, who called Mr. Trump a racist because he questioned why all that aid hasn't been enough to diminish, if not eliminate, horribly persistent poverty? President Trump shouldn't put up with that disrespect, that ignorance, in my opinion, and shouldn't put up with it on the part of any elected officials, whether Republican or Democrat. And certainly not those who rush from the White House after meeting with him to leak to the left-wing media. The Dems and the left-wing media need a reminder that they will get absolutely nothing from a president they belittle and attack, even as they pretend to be civil while negotiating in his presence. We'll have that reminder tonight and much more for them. And a big, beautiful wall and no amnesty, our theme here tonight among our guests. First introduced to America by President Trump while he campaigned for the job of president, two angel moms who lost children to crimes committed by illegal immigrants. Also tonight, Congress barreling toward another government shutdown deadline, a shutdown that the Dems and the left seem intent on arranging. The Senate and House have until next Friday to decide whether to fund the government, and so far there is no clear path to that end. We'll have a full report. And President Trump today reluctantly recertifying the Iranian nuclear deal, but he warns this is the last time he will do so. President Trump delivered a stark warning to European allies to, quote, fix the deal's disastrous flaws or the United States will withdraw. We'll take it all up with Ed Rollins and Ambassador John Bolton here tonight. Our top story, a familiar one in the nearly year-long Trump presidency. The left-wing national media once again attacking the president over his straight, blunt talk and an expletive that the president denies saying. Fox News Chief White House correspondent John Roberts with our report.
Lou, good evening. As we reported last night, multiple sources have confirmed to Fox News that President Trump did indeed use the word S-hole in that discussion yesterday in the Oval Office about the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. And as we have seen so many times in the past, the president and not the issue has become the story. At a White House event signing a proclamation for Martin Luther King Day, President Trump ignored shouted questions from the press about his comments yesterday.
Mr. President, will you give an apology for the statement yesterday?
Mr. President, did you refer to African nations?
Mr. President, are you a racist?
It was during a heated Oval Office meeting that President Trump reportedly asked, quote, why are we having all these people from S-hole countries come here? A firestorm of controversy erupted across the globe, from the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress.
Ours is not a old country, neither is Haiti or any other country in distress.
To the UN High Commission for Human Rights.
These are shocking and shameful comments from the President of the United States. I'm sorry, but there's no other word one can use but racist.
Waking up to a world of hurt this morning, President Trump denied he said it, tweeting, quote, "The language used by me at the DACA meeting was tough, but this was not the language used." A short time later, he appeared to walk that back just a bit, tweeting, quote, "Never said anything derogatory about Haitians other than Haiti is, obviously, a very poor and troubled country." But Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, who was present at the meeting, insisted the president did use those words.
He said Haitians. Do we need more Haitians? And then he went on and we started to describe the immigration from Africa that was being protected in this bipartisan measure. That's when he used these vile and vulgar comments, calling the nations they come from holes. The exact word used by the president, not just once, but repeatedly.
House Speaker Paul Ryan, the son of Irish immigrants, wasn't at the meeting, but again found himself weighing in on President Trump's comments.
I read those comments later last night. So first thing that came to my mind was very unfortunate, unhelpful. I see this as a thing to celebrate. And I think it's a big part of our strength. Whether you're coming from Haiti, we've got great friends from Africa in Janesville who are doctors who are just incredible citizens.
This afternoon, two of the participants at the meeting, Senators Tom Cotton and David Perdue, said, "Wait a minute, we didn't hear the president say that," in a joint statement insisting, quote, "We do not recall the president saying these comments specifically, but what he did call out was the imbalance in our current immigration system, which does not protect American workers and our national interest." In the bigger picture, the president and Congress still seem miles apart on what to do about DACA. The president tweeting that the so-called bipartisan DACA deal presented yesterday was a big step backwards. Wall was not properly funded, chain and lottery were made worse, and USA would be forced to take large numbers of people from high-crime countries which are doing badly. Earlier this week, President Trump appeared to earn an enormous amount of political goodwill and capital with that nearly hour-long televised meeting he had with 22 members of Congress. The big question tonight, Lou, is how much of that political goodwill and capital has he squandered as the negotiations over DACA go forward, and how much leverage has he lost in those negotiations? Lou?
John, thank you very much. John Roberts reporting from the White House. The standoff over immigration once again raises the threat of a government shutdown. In particular, Democratic lawmakers facing the prospect of just a week to pass a spending bill. Fox News chief congressional correspondent Mike Emanuel now has the latest on the increasingly tense negotiations.
The primary emphasis of immigration talks right now is a bipartisan group featuring key leaders from both chambers of Congress. From the House, it's Kevin McCarthy and Steny Hoyer. From the Senate, it's John Cornyn and Dick Durbin. And House Speaker Paul Ryan endorsed their effort.
The four of them had started bipartisan talks trying to aggregate all the ideas that are out there to come to a consensus. Do we need to fix DACA? Yes, we need to fix DACA. But I think it's really important we fix it in such a balanced way.
The White House and conservatives rejected the bipartisan proposal from 6 senators yesterday. Durbin, who is part of those talks as well, said today he isn't giving up on that plan.
We're going to prepare our bipartisan agreement for introduction into the Senate next week. If the Republican leadership has a better alternative, bring it forward. If they don't, for goodness sakes, give us a vote.
While the talks continue, other Republicans say it's critical to get at some of the core aspects of the nation's immigration problem.
Chain migration is clearly important. Again, border security, taking care of the kids with DACA, all of those are important. You want to avoid getting the deal too comprehensive because then there's too much to oppose. But if you can stay laser focused on the 4 pillars, if you will, then you can actually come to common ground.
This debate comes as the government's due to run out of money 1 week from tonight, with Democrats pushing for a DACA deal and more money for domestic priorities.
The Democrats need to stop playing politics with our military. They keep saying we've got to solve DACA before January 19th. They're even just stalling on budget talks over this issue.
Today, the speaker signaled there will be another stopgap measure but insisted there won't be a partial government shutdown.
We will have to do something short term because it's too short a notice for the Appropriations Committee to write a longer term bill. So they just technically wouldn't be able to write it.
However, with the week ending in controversy, there are some concern about Congress's ability to get things done, facing some critical deadlines ahead. Lou?
Critical indeed. Mike, thanks so much. Mike Emanuel. We're coming right back. There is a lot more to cover here tonight. Stay with us. President Trump blasting those 6 senators who came up with their so-called bipartisan DACA deal, and the Dems who aren't interested in safety and security of the American people. The president wants a merit-based system and an end to chain migration. Period. Full stop. Ambassador John Bolton and Ed Rollins join us next. And the president canceling his trip to London to open the new U.S. embassy there. Why? Because President Trump says that billion-dollar embassy was a bad deal for America. We'll have more on the story right here, coming up next. Stay with us. The president canceled his planned trip next month to open the new U.S. embassy in London. He tweeted that the United States, quote, sold perhaps the best located and finest embassy in London for peanuts, only to build a new one in an off location for $1.2 billion. Bad deal. Wanted me to cut ribbon. No. Turns out he's right. In 2013, the lease to the old U.S. embassy was sold to a Qatari real estate firm for $431 million, nearly $250 million below market value. Yes, we're looking into that. That looks like a problem. We'll find out more and keep you posted. Since the left-wing mainstream media is focusing on the language we use when discussing immigration, I'd like to remind everyone of what Senator Ted Kennedy said in 1965, because, you know, the left, they're saying words matter. And this is, I mean, they called the president a racist, a bigot, also. Even if he used the word he did use, or did he use the word that he didn't use? I can't remember how it goes. When his sweeping immigration bill was signed into law, Ted Kennedy said this. Now think about this. This was almost 43 years ago. Our cities will not be flooded with 1 million immigrants annually under the proposed bill. Will not be flooded with those immigrants annually. Do you see that? Under the proposed bill, the present level of immigration remains, I can just hear him saying it, substantially the same. And secondly, the ethnic mix of this country will not be upset. Contrary to the charges in some quarters, the bill will not inundate America with immigrants from any one country or area or the most populated and deprived nations of Africa and Asia. Everything that Kennedy promised in 1965 that wouldn't happen, happened. And now the U.S. immigration system is completely broken beneath what was a heap of lies. Meanwhile, the national left-wing media's continued obsession with President Trump's alleged language has reached a fevered pitch. Listen to this.
But it doesn't make what he said any less ignorant or any less racist. Not racial, not racially charged, racist.
There is a distinction between the people who live in a country and the governments that run it. Yahoo News interviewed a 30-year-old sociologist from Guinea, and she actually agrees with the president and ran through a whole long list of African countries that are corrupt in the way that they treat women and the societies that they run there.
We now know that we have in the White House someone who could lead the Ku Klux Klan in the United States of America.
Like Corey said, if they're brown or black or purple or orange, if they are qualified and they're coming in to make this country an even better place, I am all for that.
That's what we need. Sounds good. And you know what? That relieves you of your white guilt. That's why you can say that. That relieves you of your white guilt.
I have never had white guilt.
Oh, boy.
I think, oh boy, sums it up, Trish. Joining us now, Ed Rollins, former White House political director under President Ronald Reagan, current chairman for Kelly Ward's Arizona Senate campaign, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, both of our guests tonight, Fox Business contributors. Good to have you here. Thank you, Let's start with, have you ever seen such decor on the part of Senate Democrats in which they would rush from a meeting with the president to accuse him of all sorts of sordid and nasty things?
No, that's the way it goes these days, and we shouldn't be surprised by it.
Who the heck is surprised? Not me.
But what it says
Dick Durbin
is
there.
You're not going to have a candid conversation with Dick Durbin, because if he says something, you say something.
How about Chuck Schumer?
Whatever it might be, same thing that they can use
I
for.
I want to raise the ante.
Keep going. Political advantage. They're going to go out into the driveway of the White House and say it. So what does that do for politics? Whatever. Do you think when Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan had a glass of scotch together, that Tip O'Neill, Boston boy, may ever have once said H-E double hockey sticks? Do you think he might have said that? I bet he probably did.
Politically incorrect.
And you know, the world didn't end, did it?
Well, no, but we've tested it more than a few times, and we're testing it now, it seems to me, when you have a Senate that is so disrespectful of the president, his powers, his prerogatives, that this kind of ignorance would be leaked to the national left-wing media.
Well, my issue with all of this is immigration, as we've said over and over again, is a very complicated issue. And the fact that Durbin is not bringing a piece of paper, they're bringing the very theoretical thing. If they need 60 votes, show me how many votes they have for which particular proposition, and we do the same. We're a long ways to go before we get a bill. DACA alone is not going to pass, and Republicans will stop it, and Democrats will stop it if it's about security. So how are you going to get it worked out? You're going to get it worked out by getting a committee chairman, not the guys in the White House.
Let me repeat something I've said here a number of times. 2006, the Kennedy-McCain comprehensive immigration legislation could have succeeded and been put into law and solved illegal immigration as a problem, except for Menendez and a number of other senators who wanted to retain chain migration. That was conscious obstinance and obstructionism, and they think they can get the whole loaf. It was a calculation. They've been proved wrong.
Yeah, well, I think the whole notion you're going to get comprehensive immigration reform is completely misguided. We tried this in the Reagan administration. I was at the Justice Department when we passed the 1986 Immigration Reform Act, control the borders, so on and so forth. It was all the same thing. And then
all bull, wasn't it?
The borders weren't controlled. And so the problem now is twice as bad as it was in 1986.
More important than any of this is you got to get a budget done. And the reality is the longer you delay that, if you go through another temporary issue, our defense appropriation is getting hurt desperately, and I think to a certain extent, focus on that. The court has now put a delay on the DACA thing. We have more time to go deal with this, and you're not going to deal with it until all sides.
Well, it would be wrong of us to intimate in any way that the Dems and the left wing there were anything but frivolous. There are a frivolous bunch. We're talking about a travel warning for Americans saying do not go into Mexico because of the level of violence, the record number of murders, the cartels that are out of control and spilling across that border into the United States. There's no discussion of the border. They put up $1.7 billion to build a wall. This country needs border security desperately. $57 billion in illegal drugs crossed. Forget the illegal immigration. Just the drugs crossing alone.
Yeah, and the national security threat. Look, I think the Democrats think that they would benefit from a government shutdown, and that's what they're trying to do. They think they can escape political responsibility for it. It's up to Republicans to do a better job to say, look, we're trying to fund the government, we're trying to resolve this problem, and they're not.
Well, if they shut the government down, Democrats will get blamed, and every congressional district across this country needs to go out there and point the blame, and every Senate candidate needs to do the same, because it is their responsibility. They do not want to be responsible, and at the end of the day, this president has to be more forceful. He can't say, I'll sign anything they bring to me, because he can't do that. He has to basically say, this is what I want, security first.
You know, a couple of things in that regard. I mean, we've got to hear some numbers about what they're talking about. How many DACA people? I mean, you know, the principle of trading DACA for a wall, fully funded and constructed, the idea of trading DACA for the end of the lottery system, you know, that sounds terrific. You know, but by the time you get through this, what they were talking about are promises. You heard Dianne Feinstein, as I said last night, offer that up. A clean DACA bill, Mr. President. Who the heck do they think they're talking to? Right. This president should make it very clear where they need to get off.
Well, yeah. She claims she had a bad cold and she didn't realize she was releasing the document, didn't feel she has to talk to Grossley, so she should not be an expert on this issue. Her state is more of a mess on immigration than any other state in the country. So
Last word.
Look, I think the president's confronted with an extraordinarily difficult situation, and I think Republicans have put forward real alternatives that require some compromise with the Democrats. They're just playing charades at this point.
Ed Rollins, Ambassador John Bolton, thank you both. Great to see you. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question is, do you believe the president was being hateful and racist, or was he being descriptive in his colorful remarks when talking about Haiti and Africa? We'd like to hear what you think. Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. And follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. And on Wall Street, we can tell you another record-breaking day for stocks. The Dow Jones Industrials closing in on 26,000 after surging 228 points today. The S&P up 19, the Nasdaq climbing 49. Volume on the big board, 3.4 billion shares. For the week, the Dow up 2%. The S&P and Nasdaq just under that. And a reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast on the Salem Radio Network. Up next here, President Trump finding the D.C. swamp filled with all sorts of snakes and creepy critters. I'll have some advice, some counsel on dealing with the vermin coming up in my commentary. Stay with us. It's hard to watch the swamp at work, isn't it? The worms and worse who are so pretentious, so duplicitous, dangerous, and downright nasty that they believe they can sit down and talk with the President of the United States and bargain for amnesty with this president on DACA and immigration and then viciously attack him. President Trump has been clear from the beginning, and I mean the very beginning of his campaign, that he opposes amnesty, that he wants a wall built. Still, he's been willing to trade for a wall, for an end to chain migration, an end to the visa lottery system that would create a DACA amnesty and ultimately settle the matter. But the pro-amnesty, open borders, Democratic senators and rhino Republicans decided to make the president's colorful language an issue, because the Dems and the left will gladly sacrifice any illegal immigrant because they really don't want border security at all, any at all, let alone a wall. The Dems, the establishment, don't want this president to succeed on illegal immigration and border security, period. They don't want him to add more success to his unprecedented achievements in this first year of his presidency. It's that straightforward. Since President Trump was elected, the stock market has gained almost, are you ready for this number? Almost $8 trillion in value. Unemployment is at a 17-year low. The number of Americans who received jobless benefits last year reached a 44-year low. And economic growth, we're talking 4% in the fourth quarter, not 3%, and certainly not sub-2%. That was the high water mark, if you will, for Obama economic policy. Americans on food stamps has also fallen to the lowest level since 2010. And more than 130 companies, as a result of tax reform, are already offering bonuses or additional benefits to their employees, raising wages. The Dems and their ignorance are the problem here, Mr. President. Not you, not in any way, and certainly not your direct, clear language. And the American people clearly understand that. The Dems and the left-wing media are so ignorant, so hateful, so unprincipled, that they show absolutely no signs that they will, at any time, at least any time soon, acknowledge your successes, your achievements, your accomplishments. No signs that they will respect you, no matter how much you do. The American people, however, say thank you, and they support your rejection of the insipid and insulting deal on DACA and immigration that the Dems and the rhinos put in front of you, pretending to be serious. And they thank you. I sure do. And it appears to be where, Mr. President, it would also seem appropriate to tell the Dems, the left and the Chamber of Commerce, all of them who don't really express a great deal of concern about the nation, the middle class, our destiny as a nation. Maybe it's time, this is the time and the place, to tell them all to go to hell. until at least they learn, if not respect, at least far better manners. Wouldn't that be helpful? Our quotation of the evening, this one from Winston Churchill. He said this: "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." We're coming right back. President Trump introduced the Angel Moms to America during his presidential campaign.
I'm going to ask all of the Angel Moms to come join me on the stage.
My son, Ronald da Silva, was murdered April 27, 2002 by an illegal alien. We came here legally. Thank you, Mr. Trump. I totally support you. You have my vote.
We're pleased to have two of those Angel Moms with us tonight. Marianne Mendoza and Agnes Giboney join us here next. And get ready to meet what may be the smartest dog on earth. She first gained fame for pulling her own sled so she could ride it down a hill. But this Australian Shepherd Border Collie mix can do a lot more, and we'll show you here next. Stay with us. We'll have that video coming up after these words. Our next guest each lost a child to illegal immigrants committing a crime. Both of their sons killed by illegal immigrants. They say the Trump administration now needs to put an end to sanctuary cities before any action is taken to protect DACA recipients. Joining us tonight is Marianne Mendoza. She's Director of Advocates for Victims of Illegal Alien Crimes, and it's great to have you with us. And also with us, Agnes Giboney. Thank you for being here. And
Thank you.
I just have to ask, what is your sense of the negotiation for DACA? Understanding what will be the result if, as the president has assured everyone, the wall will be built, there will be an end to the lottery system. What do you make of it, Agnes?
I hope that President Trump will not give amnesty to these DACA kids. Number one, I don't think they are vetted. We don't know who they are and how many are there. We need to protect our own country. They need to come back and do it legally like my family did. They do not deserve to be cutting in front of the line in front of thousands of others who have applied and are waiting for the legal process to be finished to come in through the front door legally.
Marianne, your thoughts?
These politicians all know that there's MS-13 gang members within the DACA program. They're fully aware, too, that 30% of the DACA participants have committed crimes in our country. And if there isn't, if this is something that we're going to have to accept, that there's going to be something that goes with this DACA program, they've got to remove anybody who's on welfare, public assistance, anybody who's not a contributing member of society like all of these liberals claim that they are, anybody who's committed a crime. They can commit up to 3 misdemeanors and stay within the DACA program. But what the American people don't understand is a lot of these kids who come before a judge, their felonies are reduced to misdemeanors to keep them within the DACA guidelines. So we've got criminals within that. And if you do all of those things, I bet you it would be down to almost 400,000 people in that DACA program. It would probably get rid of 50% of them.
Yeah, about 800,000 registered in the DACA program. Agnes and Marianne, let me ask you both. Have you expressed your views to the White House about DACA and about the president's judgment here? Agnes, you first.
I have. Every chance I get, I tweet Mr. Trump, no DACA, no amnesty. President Reagan gave amnesty several years ago, and it has been proven to be a disaster. We cannot repeat the same mistake because it would just invite a million more illegal aliens into this country and chain migration. We can't allow that, no. And I have expressed my feelings.
And AVIAC has sent an open letter to President Trump and the American people. It can be viewed on our Facebook page, AVIAC USA, expressing
Could you repeat
exactly.
that, please?
It's AVIAC USA is our Facebook page.
And we've got it up on the screen, so.
And our website. And we've sent an open letter to President Trump and the American people outlining exactly what we expect him to do. And it was mainly all of his campaign promises. But the extra step that I'm wanting to go is You know, our senators, the Congress has already passed Kate's Law and No Sanctuary for Criminals Act. Our senators left at the end of the year, didn't even deal with any of those issues. There's over 900,000 convicted felons, illegal felons in our country roaming the streets, that both of those things would take care of and get them deported. And American safety needs to be first and foremost on our elected officials' minds, and then they can deal with DACA. But we have got to get rid of these criminals that are here committing crimes, being re-released out into our communities, and making every day an unsafe place for Americans to be.
Miriam Mendoza, Agnes Gibney, we thank you both for being here. It is a tough time, I know, for both of you. It is for the country. The president has pledged to build the wall, to end chain migration, it's, you know, all we can do right now is to wait to see whether or not the Democrats really want to negotiate in good faith. We'll see what happens, and we'd appreciate you rejoining us soon and often to keep this issue in front of the audience of this broadcast. Thank you.
Thank you. If I
Yes,
thank you. If I may say something, sure. I would ask, California is a sanctuary state. If everybody would go on fightsanctuarystate.com and help fight, because if California goes down, the rest of the country is going to go down, and we cannot allow that. So please go to fightsanctuarystate.com.
And we'll put that up. We'll tweet that out as well. The websites,
Thank you, Lou.
Both websites. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Big technology doubling down on its support of dreamers at the expense of their own American workers. Forbes editor-in-chief Steve Forbes takes that up with me here next. We're coming right back. Those fellows seem very pleased, don't they? We'll take up why. Stay with us. It appears the world's newly minted richest man is feeling more charitable toward DACA recipients than some of his own American workers. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos is donating, we're told, $33 million to a scholarship fund for the so-called dreamers. Meanwhile, a new study finds more than 10% of Amazon employees in Ohio are on food stamps. What's going on, Jeff? What kind of a business are you running? I know you're worth $105 billion now. I got it. Congratulations. But really? This is the image you want? Joining me now, Forbes Media Chairman and Editor-in-Chief Steve Forbes. Steve, what do you make of somebody as immensely successful as Bezos doing this?
Well, what I think you're going to see him do is, even though it's going to look like he's responding to the Trump tax cuts, is do what numerous other companies have done and start to share the booty. Numerous companies have given people $1,000, $2,000 bonuses, raised their own company minimum wages. So I think he's going to follow suit.
But the idea that 10% of his employees with this incredibly successful company and growing has employees on food stamps? What is that? How could any CEO do that?
It also tells you something about food stamps, the way the program's run.
Well, I'm more interested in Bezos, frankly, and the kind of value system that would permit a CEO and a founder of a company to act like that.
Yeah. So I think you're going to see more companies now looking at how many, what do our people make, how many hours do they work, and raising pay. And it's not just out of munificence, trying to be nice to people. What you're going to start to see in this year ahead is you're going to start to see real labor shortages in certain skills. You're going to start to see wages bid up. That you're going to hear the Federal Reserve say, oh, the economy is getting overheated and we must do something about it.
You mean raise rates?
Well, try to find some way to wreck it, as they've done. They've
already projected those
15 years,
as you well know.
But the thing is, when you allow free markets to work, if you don't respond to those needs, you're going to pay a price.
Yeah.
Both in
Which
publicity
one of those
and
needs should we respond to? Well, you're being so clairvoyant about it. I don't know that markets have to be completely anticipatory.
No, but the stock market anticipates that good times are ahead.
A wonderful leading economic indicator.
And they wouldn't keep going up if they thought storm clouds were ahead. And the good thing about the stock market is people still don't believe it. You still don't have the giddiness that you had, say, in 1999, 2000. This can only go up and up and up. People are still very cautious about it. That's a bullish sign.
Yeah, it is. What's your sense? Is it going to continue for what? in perpetuity? What would be your limit?
Well, my grandfather once said we make more money selling advice than following it. So a little caution to your readers. But I think if the market could have a decent, we'll have a decent year, barring the usual caveats.
I think you have just evaded my question.
No, I didn't. I said the market's going to have a very good year.
But what
I'm
about
not
investors?
selling.
Okay, you're not selling.
No.
And your counsel to all who would rely on it?
I would say for your retirement funds, leave them alone, put the money in every quarter or every week whenever you do it, and let the market do the rest.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I feel reassured. I just want you to know that, and I thank you for that.
I'll take my commission after the show. Thank you.
Well, you'll take your commission after we see the performance. Steve, but you will have a commission, I guarantee it. Steve Forbes, as always, great to see you.
Thank you.
Please roll the video now and meet Secret. She's a 3-year-old Border Collie Australian Shepherd mix. She can mop the floor, as you see there, helping with the laundry. Are you kidding me? We have a couple of Chihuahuas and a Jack Russell who've got some interesting days ahead of them as we train them for, for laundry. A day of, by the way, the dogs all left at college by our daughters who went away and left the dogs. A fine remembrance they are, too. Chores. It's just amazing what this dog can do. She even does yoga with her owner. I think that's the most remarkable dog I've ever seen. Now I want to see the thing with the Frisbee, so she's flying through the air. We'll go there next, I hope. Up next, President Trump today demanding a merit-based immigration system. We take up the left-wing Democratic spin over their failed so-called bipartisan approach. Pastor Robert Jeffress joins me after the break. I am so looking forward to seeing the pastor. I know you will be too. Stay with us. Here's a little feedback, I think, for the White House and for the leftist Dems and the rhinos, of course. In our online poll last night, we asked you, do you believe it's time for Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell to pivot to border security after the State Department issued a travel warning for 5 Mexican states, and the entire nation of Mexico is under alert because of increasing violence and the cartels? 98% of you said yes, pivot. Joining me now, Pastor Robert Jeffress. He's pastor at the First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas, a Fox Business contributor, great American, good friend, and got a new book and a devotional, and I want to say thank you for the devotional. It's terrific. And my wife and I are deeply appreciative.
Thank you.
Let's start with immigration. The president's the president was treated roughly and badly by the Dems and the rhinos who met, and 6 of them who went in being open borders, amnesty, like-minded. I mean, they're trying to game the president of the United States. I mean, what an insult.
Well, that's right, and they're not going to succeed in this, Lou. Look, apart from the language, whatever it was, the president was 100% correct in his policy on merit-based immigration. You know, at our church, we welcome people of all races, all backgrounds, whether they have anything to contribute to our church or not. But America is not a church. It is a country that has the right and the responsibility to regulate who comes into this country based on what they have to offer the country. And thank God, Lou, we have a president in Donald Trump who realizes he has both a biblical and a constitutional responsibility to put the interest of America above the interest of any and every other country in the world.
America first. The first president to say it straight up.
Yes.
Exactly. The Trump doctrine. Though that is the primary value under which this president wants the country to operate. But you use, I think, very important language, talking about the right. There's a debate about whether we have the right to decide who enters this country and is put on the pathway to citizenship, when in fact it's the responsibility of our government to make that determination. It isn't a right, it's a responsibility, a duty, an obligation.
And just look at history, Lou. It's always been that way. There's never been unrestricted immigration to our country. It's always been regulated according to what's best for America. And there are just so many sincere Christians out there who are confused about that because they don't understand the difference between the responsibility of the church in showing mercy and inviting everybody and the responsibility that God's given government to protect our nation.
You know, all of the noise around what the president said, how he said it, whatever. You know, I'm old school. I believe that when you're talking to the president of the United States, what's being said is for him to release to the public, not for the person with whom he is speaking. And to see this offense on the part of the left, how in the world can they imagine that this president would put up with the insult and the just deplorable behavior of people who are not committed to the issues that are under negotiation? Otherwise, they would have been far more careful.
Well, that's right. But look, they're trying to stop him every way they can. They're not going to succeed. He hasn't even been there quite a year yet, and he has invigorated the economy. He's decimated ISIS. He is remaking the judiciary. They are not going to be able to stop him.
Reform taxes, cut regulation. I mean, the list goes on. And these Dems should be, well, they should take a knee out of respect to the president and say thank you.
That's right. And Lou, if they walk away from this DACA deal, because I know the president, he wants to solve this problem as well as secure the border. If they walk away, it shows that they are the hypocrites who we think they are anyway. They don't care one thing about the dreamers.
I'm pretty sure it's clearly established who they are and what they are. Pastor, always great to have you with us. Thanks so much. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for being with us. Good night from New York.
From Fox